Welcome to KillieFC TV. Today we're greatly privileged to be interviewing Killie man through and through, Garry Hay. Gary signed an S form at Kilmarnock in 1992 and Tommy Burns was the manager, and he signed his professional contract under Alec Totten in 95, made his debut against Rangers, and following week made his home debut against Aberdeen, scoring 2 goals. Gary made over 390 appearances, scoring 9 goals. And during his career, he picked up a Scotland B cap at Rugby Park, he was just telling me, against Poland. Gary, tell us about your younger days playing football with Chris House and obviously signing the S forms.
Yeah, just fond memories. When I look back, when I was a young boy playing football, you know, I started out playing football when I was about 7. My dad helped the local team. I grew up in New Farm. My dad helped a local team who were under 10s. It was Benny Fraser was the manager at that point, and that was New Farm Lock. And I used to just go along and do training and join in training. And I got to play games sometimes as well, but it would be obviously the boys were under 10s. I was only 7, so I'd be getting 5 and 10 minutes here and there in the games when maybe it's games that they were winning or they weren't tight and stuff like that. So I mean, I can still remember that. I can still remember following the manager up and down the touchline the whole game. You know, I'd be following Benny and my dad up and down the touchline, you know, just hanging about there hoping that I would get on. And like, right, on you go son, on you go, you got on. So I do remember that. And then as once the boys get kind of older, once I got to like 9, the boys were like 12, so you know, physically they were just too big for me, so I went back and then started playing at my own age, playing under 10s in New Farm. That team lasted a couple of years, and then I ended up at Chris House. My managers then was a guy, Davy Love, unfortunately passed away not too long ago, and Brian Davies, again, who's passed away just the last couple of years. I spent some great years at Chris House. They were just 2 great guys. Training was brilliant. The whole atmosphere around the place was brilliant, and they just let kids play football, and just you loved it. Absolutely loved the game, which is the most important thing at that age. At that point, when I was playing with Chris House, then into secondary school, and I was playing with the school football team, and it was actually the school teacher there was Richard Thompson, who alongside his dad were big shareholders at the club and huge Killie fans. So it was Mr Thompson that actually spoke to whoever it was in at Kilmarnock and says, you need to get this boy in and get him training with you. So I went and trained with Killie when I was 13-year-old, and trained. It was coaches at that point was Jimmy Clark and Alan Robertson and Stuart McLean, and it was like once a week training. You played with a boys club, and then it was once a week, twice a week training with the guys, and that was brilliant. So it was just great. It was a great learning experience, and nothing but fond memories of it.
You started off as a winger as a boy. Who moved you back to fullback? The fullback role to the winger role, or was that against you?
It's a point of dispute, that one. If you spoke to Davy Love, if he had ever had that opportunity years ago, or if you spoke to my manager when I then went to Valspar a couple of years later, Jack McGovern, you know, I played out in the wing, or I would play up front, or I would play in centre midfield, and I would score loads of goals, to be fair, 30, 40, 50 goals a season at that level. So obviously they thought it was pretty good in an attacking sense. And when I went and trained with Killie, when I was playing any games with them, it was sort of midfield I played until maybe it was about 16 or 17. And if I remember rightly, we played a friendly against a team, and it was down at Beath, the AstroTurf down there, and Alan Robertson and Stuart were the gaffer. I can't remember what happened, but they said, you know, Hookie, on you go, jump back to left back and you play there. Maybe a 15-20 minutes into a game, I think the boy got injured. I went back and played there, and I did really well. You know, playing back there, you're seeing everything in front of you. It's maybe a wee bit easier. I was no bad in the ball, had a decent left peg, and I could play a pass here or there. So it would be Alan Robertson, to be fair. So any time Davy or Jack had had seen Robbie. You know, I can't believe you've turned him into a left back.
You stayed at Killie all your career. Do you have ever any regrets that you never chanced your arm down south, or were you always quite happy just with the home bird and stay in Killie and
no, I loved playing for the team I supported. I was a bit of a home boy. There was at one point that I was leaving. Norwich had come in. Bobby had pulled me into the office on the Thursday or the Friday before a game, and it was him and who was the chief exec boy at that time? Was it Ian Welsh?
Ian Welsh, yeah.
The two of them pulled me in, and it was a time where Garry Hay was going to Norwich, and just says Norwich have been obviously looking at Holt loads. They'd really like to look at you as well. They've made an offer to the club, and we've accepted that offer. So we need to speak to them, kind of thing. So to speak, and I'm thinking, do we even know where Norwich is in the map at that point? I think it was about 23. So it was one of the ones. It was a bit of a shock. It was a nice thing because we were obviously, you know, a club on the up down south. I spoke to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and said, you know what, well, you know, the club have accepted that bid. I had no inclination of I want to leave, but you know, at the end of the day, you've got to be ambitious as well and try and do the best for yourself. So I says, well, I spoke to the Nigel Worthington on the phone on the Friday, and he said, love what I've seen of you, really keen to get you down, come down on Monday, and we'll take it from there. So I says, right, okay. So Bobby then says, right, you're not playing tomorrow, wee man. Your head's pickled. I don't want you getting injured. All these sort of things. So you'll not play tomorrow. So he's right, okay. So the game, turned up for the game the next day, watched the game. Then after the game, Bobby pulled me in, and he says, Norwich have pulled out, signing you. And that was basically it. He says, Norwich pulled out, signing you. He says they can only afford one of these. Holty was always their top choice, so they're signing Holty. So I don't know if that's what's happened, that's been the case, or whatever's happened. Whatever's happened has happened. But Bobby's like, you know, we obviously love you here. We want you to stay. We're going to offer you a new contract, and I ended up signing a new 3-year deal at that time. And I was delighted. You know, it was one of the things. It could have been, but it wasn't. You know, and I was more than delighted to stay and play for Killie, definitely.
You signed in '95, so you're obviously about the club in the run up to the cup final in '97. It must have been a great buzz to be around. All right, maybe not playing, but being around the build up and
you know,
cup final. And
when I come in, it was '95. I come in YTS. I think that I did 1 year YTS, and then I was a sort of first year pro. So you know, we were training with the guys all the time, and you know, you were part of it. It was a brilliant day. I mean, it was a gorgeous summer's day as well. You know, it was a big build up about a family final against Falkirk. It was a perfect day, and in fairness to Bobby and his coaching staff, they made the guys who we knew weren't going to be involved, but they made us feel part of it. And I remember the guys stayed down at the Irvine Thistle or whatever it was called at that point, the hotel down there the night before. We were to go down on the day and travel up with our wives and girlfriends to the game in a different bus for the first team bus kind of thing. So it was, you know, you're made to feel part of it, and obviously once they won it, I was on the bus as well, and a few of the guys went down on the pitch. Actually, that's probably one of the regrets that I didn't at that time. I was sitting away up the back at the back of Ibrox, sitting with my girlfriend. You know, obviously cheering and everything. We won the game, it was brilliant, and then a couple of guys were sitting away further down, and then the next thing I knew they were on the pitch kind of thing. So it was just one of those things, but no, it was a brilliant day, absolutely tremendous.
Your day was to come, but more of that later. You played under several different managers. Who did you enjoy playing under the most, and who was the biggest influence on you as a player, as manager at Kilmarnock? Who was the biggest? Obviously, Jim Jeffries was probably the longest.
Jim was there the longest time. I think, you know, sort of question you get asked all the time. who was the biggest influence? There's lots of different influences. I mean, I go back to all the way to my boys' club managers and family members as being huge influence in me, and helped me become, you know, a half decent footballer. In regards to the professional sense of it, I first went in, you know, as Tommy Burnside me YTS, S1, and I also got a chance to go in and work experience and train with the first team. So I was 14 or 15, went in and trained for a week with the first team, and that was brilliant. That was absolutely amazing. It was a real eye opener. I remember on a Friday, you know, I don't know if it was injuries or what, but I got to play in a big game. It was like 8-a-side, 9-a-side, with all the first team players that I'd go and watch on a Saturday. You know, guys like Ali Mitchell and Gus McPherson, and I think Sean McSkimmon was there at that time. Guys like that who are just like heroes for me, and I got to train with them. That was just a great experience. So, and one thing, even at that age, you noticed when Tommy came and signed me an S-form, what a presence he had. You know, he came in and signed the S-form there with the head teacher, and my dad was there as well. And you know, I'd never forget the words he says, "Gary, remember, everything you do, you represent Kilmarnock." You know, and it stuck with me. He had a real presence about him. So he was a very early age. I come in and Alex Totten was the manager. He was quite hands-on the pitch. I wouldn't say he took a lot to do with the young boys, but he didn't know who you all were, and you know, he would speak to you. He would never walk past you. He always had a word to say to you and speak to you. And I've spoken to him over the years ever since, and he was really nice in that sense. I felt at that time there was probably a couple of young boys who deserved a chance and weren't getting it. And then obviously Bobby stepped in, who knew Burkie and Beggy, and knew what these boys were doing in the reserves, and he gave them that opportunity. Bobby was a big influence at the start. In a defensive sense, I mean, I wasn't a good defender, I'll openly admit that, but in organisation, communication skills and stuff, Bobby was really good. Jimmy Clark was excellent as well. He was always good at giving you individual pieces of information that can really help you, how you can help yourself, who you're playing against, and things like that. That was a big influence. Then went on, and it was, after the guys, it would be Jim and Billy. Good man and manager, Jim. You know, he gets perhaps doesn't get the right press at times. He can come across as grumpy and stuff like that. But as a man manager, he was always fighting players' corners. If it's whether it be with a chairman or somebody, he would always fight your corner for you, and try and do everything he could to keep the players happy. He left you knowing in no uncertain terms that he wanted to win every week. You know, that was first and foremost. You know, you must win. He was real winning mentality, and I think you need that. You know, you need that. They probably just spent too long at Kilmarnock. That was half the problem. I think that you've got a shelf life now at a club, and they were just there too long. But they were a good influence in regards to always making sure that you're fully focused and what have you. Most enjoyable was Mixu, just in the way we played. I mean, if you asked any Kilmarnock fans over the last 10-15 years, they'll say, you know, that 6 months or 8 months he was there, the football the team played was tremendous. And even though I didn't play that often under him, he brought Ben Gordon in. I could see what he was wanting to do. He was wanting 2 quick full-backs. Ben was really quick, and he could get the ball up to Eremenko and Taul, and they could hold the ball up for those 2-3 seconds, which allowed everybody else to go up the pitch and support them. So I didn't play that often under him, but I certainly enjoyed the games I did play, and the things he was trying to teach. He really taught you the game. It wasn't just, guys, I want to play for the back, and right, we're going to do 5-a-sides in training. It's, guys, I want to play for the back. This is exactly how I want you to do it. This is what we're doing in training. This will just transfer straight into a game. And as a full-back as well, he would say, play that pass into that midfielder. If he's not there, I'll shout at him, because that's where he should be. You know, and things like that, where, you know, he wanted you to play football from the back, entice the other team in, and then hurt them with playing passes in behind their midfield and what have you. And then you know, some of the football, it was like FIFA. You know, it was ball into the guy in the number 10, and he's sliding balls through for Connor Salmon, and you know, it was brilliant. It was great to be part of. And then Kenny come in from that, and Kenny wanted to do exactly the same as Mixu in that sense. He maybe changed one or two things about a wee bit. In fairness to him, he lost players that made Mixu's team work perfectly. Connor Salmon leaving, you know, was a big blow at that time, because Connor was absolutely flying, and he was on the end of everything that was good before that. So Kenny probably suffered in that sense, but again, he still wanted to play good football, and we've got lots of great memories for Mixu and Kenny.
Right. The League Cup run, all the way up to the semi-final against Ayr. As a Kilmarnock supporter, the semi-final for me was more nerve-wracking against Ayr than the final against Celtic. As a Killie fan, did you appreciate that, and were you the sort of instigation to tell the other fans, look, we can't afford to lose this?
Aye, you know, it was a great occasion. You know, I remember going up to George Square to do a wee bit of promotion for it, and spoke to Brian Reid and a couple of their boys there as well. And that's a great thing about it, is, you know, obviously you get the game on the Saturday, but it's a build-up as well. But sometimes it gets missed, and it was brilliant, you know. And I knew how big a game it was, certainly, and I agree with you. I was far more nervous for that game than what it was for the final. Obviously there's less expectation in the final because we were playing Celtic, but I knew, you know, we were expected to win. There was no ifs or buts about that. I knew that if we didn't win, you know, it would be torture. Never hear the end of it. I work with a guy who's an genetic fan in the office through there, and I know he would never have let me forget it. So now it's good to me and another Killie fan in the office against one of your fans who always just remind about that. And my mate just reminded me the day, he says, I think it was actually the anniversary of the semi-final yesterday. So we pointed that out to him. So aye, that was a nerve-wracking game, but we came out the other side of it, and thankfully got to the final.
Kenny himself admits he used mind games against Celtic in the lead up to the final, probably in the semi-final to a certain degree. We used players aware of what he was saying in the press and what he was building them up, that it was their treble and they just had to turn up and win, basically.
To be fair, you know Kenny, you know, like, I tried not to read what Kenny was saying in the press, because, you know, sometimes he just talks nonsense, you know. But aye, certainly we were so well prepped. We were so well prepped for that week. You know, he was saying to us, guys, I'm going to be bigging up everything about Celtic. You know, this is their treble. You know, they deserve it, all that sort of nonsense, he says, but you better not believe it. We don't believe that in this dressing room. You know, we'll be going there to try and win, of course, and I know we can win. So we were really well prepped. Probably best prepared I've ever been for any game.
Was it more meticulous in that game than any other game?
Aye, it was.
Just everything.
Yep. I think, you know, we had the game before it was Inverness away in the league, and I remember Kenny brought Fow and myself into the office on the Thursday or the Friday, and says, guys, I'm already thinking about the cup final. He says, you two especially, I don't want anything happening to you. He says, so he's not playing at the weekend. He says, I'm not having you getting injured and missing the biggest game of your life. I was wanting to play against Inverness. Fow was wanting to play as well. You're thinking, I just want to play, you know, you want to keep playing, worry about it, let's get Inverness out of the road and we'll worry about Celtic after that. But he's like, no, he's not playing. I'll take one of these. I'll let you know tomorrow who I'm taking up with me, and he'll sit on the bench. The other one, you can have a weekend off with your family. Again, Kenny was good at that type of stuff. You know, James got a young family, I had a young family, so he was good at, you know, just doing things like that sometimes, obviously for the right reasons. So he says, no, right, so on the Friday he says, Gary, you're no involved, so you just have a weekend with your family. He says, preparation for Celtic starts Monday, and we'll be prepared for that and get your head focused on that. So from Monday through to the final and at the game we had obviously training sessions and video sessions most of the week. It was death by PowerPoint, you know, and just we just knew that Kenny had done loads of work on it, and obviously his wee computer guy helped him out with doing all the clips and stuff. Just had so much information. It was mostly stuff you kind of know about Celtic, but it was really pointed out. It was wee kind of bits of information, like if Charlie McGrew's playing fullback, Stokes always drifts out to the left and he plays that channel ball out there. So it was wee bits of information like that he was giving, like the centre backs and the full backs, just to let them know. And lo and behold, you know, when it came to the game, you could see the patterns happening as before they were doing it, and that's what was happening. So it was easier for us to read it. And that was just one of the wee things he picked out, I remember. So it was good, really good preparation.
What's your abiding memory of the game itself? What do you remember? What's it? Obviously the goal, and it's maybe the celebration after. But is there anything else that stands out during the game that... we interviewed Kenny a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, and he said that you had a night out in Glasgow and that Stokes admitted he dived, which I thought was quite a revelation. On camera, he said they spoke to him and Stokes admitted he'd taken a dive in the last
I think him and Michael had maybe had a conversation after a PFA do or something like that, Michael Nelson, and I think Stokes had said perhaps he maybe went down a wee bit easy. I don't know why he did. I don't know why he didn't pull the trigger, you know, but only he knows the answer to that one, because he had time and space to shoot. He probably knew that Cammy would have saved it anyway, because Cammy was just unbeatable that day. Don't know if I'll get one memory. It would be the goal, I think. You know, it was one of those things that you'll never forget. You know, a joke with Lee Johnson, still speak to Lee Johnson, say to him, remember we man you played the second and the sixth pass at the goal, at the cup final. So I do have a laugh and a joke about it, but it's probably the goal. It was just the feeling that you had that day when Big Dieter scored.
Having been about in '97 and then having your own celebrations in 2012 and the Celtic bus that they provided for to go around the town in, green gold, I don't know how you remember that.
Aye, yep.
It must have been living the dream. What you dreamt as a Killie fan as a boy.
Oh God, aye, absolutely. I remember back in '97. I was in the top deck. Me and my girlfriend got on, and it was brilliant. I remember it then, and I remember if I said to her or said to other people, I says, "Oh God, I'd love this. Imagine you actually played the game, because you felt part of it, but you didn't feel quite fully part of it." And the players were very welcoming, but you know, to have that feeling, you know, of achievement when you beat a giant in Scottish football in Glasgow, to win the cup was sensational.
Final few questions. Best player you've played with?
There's been a couple, to be fair. Always think about that. Obvious ones that stick to mind would be like Eremenko and Duran. You know, you forget with some boys sometimes as well. You know, when I first broke through, played in the youth team with Alex Burke. Alex Burke was so talented. He was really, really talented. He was a smashing player. He was one of the boys who would have a nightmare for 80 minutes and then do something, just a complete piece of magic, and then win you the game and shoot for 30 yards and get in the top corner. So in younger days it was certainly him, but boys that came through, like I think like Stephen A. Smith, you know, what he's went on and achieved, from the wee boy for Sturton. I remember going to a school cup final. I was to present the cup, and there was a wee blonde-haired boy playing up front for Sturton Academy. I can't remember who the school they were playing. They ran amok, and I can't remember if Roby was there or somebody was there. I was like, oh, look at that boy, who's that? And Roby's like, that's one of ours. I says, oh, brilliant. He was brilliant, you know. And then he steps in the door a couple of years later, and you know, 16, 17, he's starting in amongst the first team, and just his attitude and his willingness to learn. You know, we used to train up in Glasgow, obviously, and Nazy would jump in with us. He would car share with myself and a couple of other boys, and he just wanted to learn every day. You know, he'd ask you questions all the time and just always trying to make himself better. And it's feel really pleased that I managed to play with somebody like that and help him a wee bit. He was great to play behind. He was one of the boys, you give the ball, you know, he'd take it inside, he'd overlap, he makes you look a half decent player. You know, these type of players. And again, another boy could score a goal out of nothing, but his work ethic was incredible. So he was definitely right up there. Boydie for his goal scoring. When I played with him, Kilmarnock, his finishing was absolute top class. But that said, Ian Durant, going back to the cup final in 2007, which Ian played in, and I remember Gus saying him, talking about him, or Paul DiGiacomo talking about him, just, you know, his knee was knackered. His knee was knackered, but as an influence in the dressing room and as a player, he was unbelievable. I remember we went to Choco when Durante was on the coaching staff, and he sometimes still trained then, and we played a bounce game, somebody got injured, Durante came on and played centre midfield, hadn't he done anything because of his knee for months, and big Gary McDonald couldn't get near him. Honestly, it was hilarious. You know, he was limping about, but Big Gary could not get near him because he just popped things round the corner and just walking across, and he was brilliant even then. So he was a special player, and the things he did, the profile he raised for the club alongside obviously Ali coming to the club at that time, it was brilliant. But Durante's definitely there, and then latterly was Eremenko in his first spell. More so, he's still talented when he came back, but probably not playing the same type of football that utilised him to his biggest capacity. The first time round, again, I remember he came on, he played against St Mirren, his first game, I believe, at Rugby Park, and he played a 60-yard switch in behind the left back for wee Hamill, and it was about that off. You know, it was a foot off the ground the whole way, and you're just like, oh my God, what a player this is. You know, things he could see was tremendous. It really was amazing that, you know, you think he's looking that way, and the next thing you know, he's whipped a ball behind their right back for you, making that run. You know, the things he's seen, he was very special as well. So they would be Nazy, Eremenko and Durante are definitely the top three anyway.
Your hardest opponent, who was the hardest player you played against?
Played against a few. I remember I played I don't even know the guy's name, but I played a pre-season game. I'd re-signed at Killie. I still hadn't made my debut, so about 20-year-old. Bobby had signed me in another 1-year deal, and then went over to Germany for pre-season, and we played this German second division team. And there was a wee Iranian guy or something that played. He tore strips off me, absolute strips off me. And then that season, that's when I made my debut. And I remember I played the first couple of games, and Bobby's like, I won't say what he said, but he's like, bloody hell, wee man. He says, after I seen you in that pre-season game, he says, I thought I'd made a mistake giving you a new contract. He says, but you've come in, you've done well. But I don't remember who the guy's name was. He was brilliant. But and certainly in Scottish football, on the same pitch, you know, you couldn't not mention somebody like Henry Larsson. Although I didn't play directly against him, sometimes he would drift across that way, and you know, he wouldn't beat you with skill, he wouldn't beat you with pace, but his anticipation and his movement was incredible, and he was a top player. Probably 1-to-1, totally against a winger, it'd probably be Aidan McGeady in fairness. Right foot, left foot, tricks ahoy. You know, he didn't know what he was going to do next. And he wasn't quick, but he was sharp, really sharp. So he was a real handful as well. And I didn't particularly enjoy playing against wingers that were like that. I much preferred playing against a guy that's maybe playing out wide, but it's more like a midfielder. you know what I mean, wants to maybe step inside and go and link up, play 1-2s and stuff. Whereas these guys are just running at you and don't know where they're going to go here. It's a nightmare. So he was a real handful.
And one of the questions, you now work for the SFA. Tell us a wee bit about that role you do now, your day-to-day job.
Day-to-day job is effectively in charge of things called the schools of football. So there's 6 of them in the South West region. There's one at the Grange Academy, there's Prestwick, Cumnock, Harvey. There's a couple of schools up in East Kilbride. So it's a programme for first and second year kids who love playing football, and basically football gets built into their timetable and they get that every day. So we've got 6 coaches out there, and I'm in charge of those coaches and what they're delivering, and helping the young kids basically become better wee football players, but also nicer wee young people as well. So kind of in charge of that and doing a bit of the coach education side of things as well. So a bit of tutoring on, you know, all the various courses that the Scottish FA offer, kind of thing. So it's brilliant. I love it. I'm still involved in football. I get to go to the Killie games with my wee man at most weekends as well, which is always great. You know, always love to go along there, and he's a fully Killie fan now, that's for sure.
And finally, a message for Killie supporters.
Obviously, I could probably share some of the frustrations this season. You know, it really has been up and down. We've had a few hidings actually, which is a bit disconcerting. But at the same time, you know, I've had a look at the table and I've seen some of our games. I thought for the first 25-30 minutes against Inverness, but you know, the game that was covered in snow, I thought we played really well, and we've shown some really good things this season as well. And I look at it and I say, you know, you've got boys like Greg Kiltie, got Rory McKenzie, Mark O'Hara, David Syme. We've got a lot of these young players, although Rory probably counting more an experienced player now, but we've got a lot of these young players, and I think we just maybe need to be a wee bit patient, and hopefully the consistency with them will come, where they'll become more consistent, they'll become a wee bit more resilient as well. We seem to maybe lose a goal or two and let our heads go down, and looking at it from the outside, that's the way it seems. And then I look at it, I think we're only 5 or 6 points away from 6th place. You know, we're a point adrift in regards to the playoff thing, so it's going to be really tight. So, you know, for me, it's just about getting behind the players that are there right now, and you know, really try to help them as a fan. You know, show that patience and belief that we need to do to hopefully see them through the other side this season. Because if we can, I think, you know, those boys will really benefit for it this season, and it'll really push them on next year, I hope.
Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.